And welcome everybody to today's webinar, all about automating workflows for continuous service improvement. We've actually got three guests joining us today. We're going to be speaking to Genevieve Trottier, who's Customer Success Manager at Samanage. We're also going to be talking to Steve Blackburn and John Walton from Yorkshire Water. Steve's Continuous Improvement Analyst and John's a Service Desk Team Leader there. And essentially, they've been working with Samanage on an improvement project and automating some of their workflows and improving the portal. So we'll get a really good story today from them and an idea of some of the things that they did and how they went about that. So first of all, we should have Genevieve on the line. Hi.
Hi.
Hello, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, no problem.
So I'll let you do a bit of an intro and give people an idea of the story that we've got today, and then we'll hear from Steve and John.
Sure. So as we've just heard, my name is Genevieve Trottier. I'm originally from Canada. I work now in the Netherlands for Samanage. Samanage is a company that offers cloud software that helps employee service management in multiple types of businesses. Today's little webinar is continuous improvement of the service desk through automated workflow. When I was asked if I had a customer in mind that would be open to doing a webinar, right away, I knew that Yorkshire Water would be the perfect customer to do this with us. I worked together with Steve Blackburn and John Walton there on literally Steve's title is Continuous Improvement Analyst, and so he's very much the man who can help us get a better idea of how to do continuous improvement for service desk through this. And John, who is the service desk manager. So both of them together have been using Samanage to lead continuous improvement at Yorkshire Water by using our software. So I'll let Steve talk about how that's happened for them, but customer success managers are essentially the account managers responsible for the customers here at Samanage. And what we do is team with our customers to understand their business and then see how we can help them with the software and the solutions that we offer in order to improve things for them. So that's about it.
Fantastic. So that sounds really, really good. Just to remind everyone listening as well, please do post your questions either for Genevieve or for Steve and John at any time through the session today. We'll come to those at the end and we'll get through as many of those as we can. So yeah, right, I'll leave you guys to it. Thank you.
Great,
thanks. Zoe. My name's Steve. As I said, I'm the Continuous Improvement Analyst here at Yorkshire Water. I think before we actually start, we'll go through a brief bio of myself, and then John will do the same. As you can see from the slide, and no, it's not a typo, I have done 40 years with Yorkshire Water through various roles within HR facilities, but I've picked up Samanage since we introduced it probably about 5 years ago now, 4 or 5 years, and I'm probably the main administrator for Samanage along with John. So we do all the development and etc. And we've got, as it says there, 20 departments now. We're not just an IT service desk, we look after 20 different departments within the business. So if I pass it across to John, he can have a brief update of what he does.
Hello everyone, so I'm John Walton. My background is as a consultant for deploying ITSM solutions and advising on ITIL. But I got sick of the road. I joined Yorkshire Water in January 2017, so I'm a bit of a baby compared to Steve. I'm the service desk team leader looking after 8 team members, supporting about 6,000 users. And as Steve alluded to, we're placed within shared services, so my team provides support across IT, finance, HR, and also sort of general business queries.
Thanks, John. A little around a brief thing about Yorkshire Water. So you can see there we've got 5 million customers, looking after 2.1 million properties. We actually employ 4,000 staff along with probably around 2,000 contractors. We outsourced a lot of our main lane and service lane to these contractors a few years back. So when we're dealing with Samanage, we're actually dealing with 6,000 possible customers at once. Which is not easy between the two sort of administrators that we've got, but we do cope. And as the slide says, can two admins actually deliver this quality service? I think the answer is yes. I think we're living proof of that we can deliver it. One thing to stress though is that this is only part of our day job. We are not full-time on Samanage. I probably spend 50% of my time on Samanage, and John has all sorts of other tasks with the service desk. But what does help is, I guess, is some simplicity of the system. Our users find it so easy to request items, etc., that our side of administrating it is fairly straightforward. Yes, we have to change catalogue items and some of the roles, etc., but the workload isn't that big. The problem that we've got is that because, as I said, we were both like part-time in the role, keeping up to date with new functionality that Smanage releases is difficult for us. And that's one of our challenges. But as I'll mention later on in the presentation, we have now got management buy-in that we can actually spend more of our time developing it for a better user experience. So this is the areas that we're going to cover throughout the presentation. We're going to look at automated workflows, how we created organizational buy-in, how we've consolidated every of those 20 departments that we mentioned at the beginning of the presentation onto one platform. And then the last but by no means least is using our organization's roadmap along with the manager's roadmap to both our advantages. So, creating a user-friendly service catalogue where employees can find their requests. I think we probably started this over 3 years ago, where we had just our facilities team based in Smanage, and by word of mouth, each team has come to us and said, look, we like what we see there, can you create something for us? So over the time, we've tried to create this user-friendly environment where people have seen it work for them, and then they've seen the benefits of how they can then use Smanage in their area.
So single access point through the service portal. So everyone in the business, when they join, gets a Smanage account as they start. Very easy to get into. We're in a culture as well where pretty much 100% of our requests are raised via self-service. The only ones that aren't are just exceptions for people who are maybe using it for the first time. One of our challenges at the moment is we want to drive users to the portal to report incidents as well as submit requests, not because they have to, but because it's simple and easy to use and they know they'll get results. We want to make it more attractive to go to that portal rather than ring through to an analyst. Sort of high-level strategy we have for that is just create an environment where things are very clear. We make sure users know what they're going to get, how long it'll take, and all the stuff that goes alongside that. It's also a drive on our part. We're now being measured less on our sort of call handling times and more on the adoption of self-service through the business. I've always believed that measures drive performance. Now that we're being measured on this is a huge step change in the way we're working that will sort of help drive towards the behavior of our users and analysts into self-service.
I looked into our system the other day, and we've currently got 347 different forms now built into Smanage. Each of those forms has been built with each department to find out what questions they need from the requester to make sure they can meet the request up front. We're constantly revising them, but as the system is so easy to use, what we tend to do is do a first cut, and we say, right, look, we'll put this live. Are you happy to put it live? And quite often they come back and say, well, actually, what we need is, and again, with the ease of the system, we can then just go in, yeah, no problem. And what impresses our customers most is the fact that we can do this almost live. So they come in and say, right, we need this changing, we need this option changing, we need another question added. Can you do it for us? And they're more than surprised when we say, yeah, just stay there, I'll do it and put it live. And they go, is it live? And yeah, it's there. You go into the portal now, and there it is. It's live. So, like I say, we've currently got 347 forms, and later on in the presentation, I'll talk how we're looking to reduce that number quite considerably. So we've created, I think we've probably got 29 different categories now built within Smanage. Each of those has got its own subcategory. And the reason we've created so many categories is because we've got so many teams that are looking to use Smanage. We've got to be careful of what they can see. Normally, if you've got just an IT service desk, the whole of IT would want to see everything. And it doesn't matter if Joe Bloggs sees it and his mate next door sees it. But we've got very sensitive areas. We've got occupational health on there, we've got HR on there, we've got payroll. And as you can imagine, we don't want those areas information to be passed out because there's quite a lot of delicate information in there. So by using categories and subcategories, we've been able to tailor our roles so that each team only sees what they need to see.
And the solutions database. Now, solutions within our business are something we've only recently started to realize the power of in sort of hitting our aims, driving towards self-service. So as tickets are resolved by any technical team, solutions are going to be created for internal use. You can literally get a resolution on a ticket, tick a box, and it'll become a solution that you can then review and put live. It's something that all the teams in the business have bought into, are very invested in. We give our teams areas of focus every quarter to convert as many resolutions as possible into reusable solutions. So we've got an organically growing and utilized knowledge base. As well as that, anytime there's a quick fix from the user end, this is created as an approved solution that is visible to the end user as well, so that users can view, and over time, hopefully, they'll become suggested items when they're searching in SAM. As well as making these available, we're also actively promoting what we consider sort of big ticket items. So we've started a series called How to IT, where we've just grabbed a sort of batch of solutions, put them in a sort of templated format, tag them How to IT, so that when users are searching, they might come through whatever channel, and before they pick up the phone, they'll get to the point where they're thinking, we know that there's this catalog of solutions available to us. Let's try and get an answer before we have to pick up the phone to an analyst. So we're trying to create this culture where a user will search for How to IT in SAM before calling the desk, and there's a good chance there'll be a quick fix already available to them. There's only about 10-15 articles at the moment, but it's growing on a weekly basis. And as well as that, we're looking to expand. As we've mentioned, we're an enterprise service desk. We're not just dealing in IT. So the goal is to have series How to Payroll, How to HR, How to Finance, and so on.
As mentioned before, we've currently got 347 different forms. We had a visit from Genevieve and Sjoerd from Samanage back in June this year, and to look at how we could make better use of the system. And straight away, one of the things they pointed out was the number of forms that we've got. And as I've mentioned before, it's been very difficult for myself and John to use the functionality of dependent drop-downs, AIs, etc., to change these forms. But as a result of the visit we had, we finally got management buy-in. So the presentation that Genevieve and Sjoerd gave to our management team stressed the need to have people full-time working on Samanage. And although we're not working full-time, we've managed to get days where we're actually spending the whole day, just me and John, locked away in a room. First of all, we started doing some housekeeping, but now we're looking at consolidating some of the catalogue items into one. A prime example is we've currently got 4 different forms for ID cards. Each employee has some sort of ID card when they're going around the business, and also when they're going on visits to customers. And we had 4 different ones for new ones, for replacements, etc. But using all the new functionality, our first aim is to get that down to 1. And that's just going to be the tip of the iceberg, because we're going to start using that and spreading it out across the whole of the 347 forms. We've not set ourselves a target yet, but we're looking to get a large chunk of that down, which gives a better user experience out in the business, is because they don't have to wade through all the forms to find which one do I need. There'll literally be one there. Similarly, with another area we're looking at is around new starters. For when a new starter joins the business, they've got to get access to this, access to that. And at the minute, we've got probably a number of forms again. So we want to try and sort of amalgamate them into one form. Better user experience, but at the same time, it still goes to the right people. That way, they probably get access quicker than, and on day one, when they get onboarded, they'll have all the access to the right systems, etc. Whereas at the minute, we know it's a bad experience out there purely because of the way that we work around things. Another one that I've just built, it's going live next week, is around IT equipment. Currently, we've got 4 forms: one for laptop, one for Toughbook, one for desktop, one for monitors, And again, as you can imagine, as a user out there, said, oh, have I got to fill, which form do I fill in? I've got to fill that one. Oh no, I've got to fill that one in. Now using dependent drop-downs, we've created a new form where they just choose at the start whether it's laptop, etc. And from that, it drops down all the questions that they need just for the laptop. So again, for a user experience, that's great, and it just makes our life a lot easier as well.
Just to add on that as well, the sort of service catalog items we're looking to keep, we see them over time. There hasn't been a lot of consistency in the way they're presented and that sort of thing. Lots of different formats, different wording, different ways to explain things. We're looking to create as consistent an experience as possible by what we don't merge into one. We sort of develop a template so that all requests fit in. A template that all requests fit into, that communicates to the user what they're requesting, when to request it, how long it'll take, who will approve it, try and make things easy to understand, and also garner better feedback. We'll move on, Steve. Thank you.
Go, John.
So this is our service portal as it stands at the moment. You'll see it's quite wordy. It used to be a lot worse, believe me. There's a lot of information we're trying to communicate, and I feel as a new user looking at it, there's a lot there. It might look a little intimidating. It might put you off sort of exploring a bit. So one of the things we're looking at the moment is to make it as easy to understand as possible, either through layout, through wording, through the different formats we could use. One of the things I'm personally working on at the moment is it's quite a cute little thing, but it's a GIF that sort of takes users through the basics of what section of the portal they need at what different point, to try and make it a little easier so that users are logging things right first time. And again, so that as they start working with Sam and they're getting the good consistent experience by logging things right, they're wanting to use it more and more. One of the big things we have coming on sort of Yorkshire Water horizon, which I think we'll talk about a little more in a bit, is that we have a new SAP system that's coming in. And this is sort of a big bang. It's going to all the users in the business at once. There's going to be a lot of technical help that's going to be required, and also a lot of user guidance needed. Now, our aim is to have SAM be the place for users to get guidance. So we talked about how to IT before, how to SAP. We'd like to have that going. We'd like to use the announcements that the portal has. We'd like to provide links to useful pages, all that sort of thing. The portal is really easy and quick to tailor. We want to take advantage of that. We might, for example, have an SAP month where portal guidance is kept to a minimum in favor of advising users about where they need to go with the different queries about SAP. And we can quickly switch that out depending on volume. So if we see we're getting a certain type of thing, we can say, okay, here's our featured article. Let's promote that. Using that information, we can very quickly adapt to the types of call, and we can signpost what needs signposting.
As I mentioned, and I've mentioned a few times now, we've got quite a lot of categories on our catalogue, and there you've got on the screen is purely probably half of the categories. And as again I mentioned, there's 347 forms. It gets very busy for them for people to find forms. So again, by doing all these amalgamation of forms, we're hoping to cut down what users see on the front page. Like I said, that's probably half of what they can at the minute. So one piece of new functionality that we're very keen on is dependent drop-downs. And here's an example of a form that literally went live yesterday. It's used for our communications team when anybody out in the business wants to amend parts of the two websites that the company have got. The highlighted piece of word in there is where we put the dependent drop downs, and that's where we've used around parts of the business, because the way that our business is broken down, we break them down into business units, and within business units, each business unit's got an area. And what I've built, as you can see from probably the right hand side of the screen, is first you choose the company, and then depending on which company that you choose, then it drops down the business units that are relevant to that company. Then again, when they choose the business unit, then it drops you down to the area. Normally in the past, when we've tried to build a form like this, it's been massive as you can imagine. We've now cut it down to what you can see. So they've literally got one line to start with that may expand to 3, and it gives them all the options to find out which, and this helps our communications team to see where all the sort of changes are coming from, who's given all the ideas or amendments. There's something that I've added to this since we've put this up, is an application integration I've built. As you can see from, well, you probably can't see from the first question, they get to choose one of 5 options of what their change is, and each of those changes has its own SLA. And normally we'd be thinking, well, hang on, how can we put different SLAs attached to one form? And we've probably in the past gone down to a number of forms. But what I've built now is an integration that, depending on what they choose in that question, automatically changes the subcategory, and then we can use the subcategory then for triggering the correct SLA. So that's something that's gone live yesterday. What I'm also looking to do is something that Sherd quite kindly showed us when he came across. At the minute, the title of the form is Website Amends and Additions. What we're going to get it to do is, again, from the choice that they make in those 5 options, we'll add that to the title. So straight away, without going into the form, they can, the agents at the other end can look, right, I can see what that is. It's, we need a new page, or we need to change some text, we need to delete something. Without actually having to go into the ticket, automatically they'll be able to see what the form is all about. I think we've probably talked through most of this. So looking at the optimized service delivery, we build the forms, again, as we said, to get all the information up front for the users. As John has mentioned, we're strongly encouraging service portal adoption, and we do measure our successes through SLA compliance. And again, that form I've just shown you is a prime example where we can keep a track of success for that one form through, I think there's 5 different SLAs. When I go out to teams, I do show them how Samanage can collect all the information through on the one ticket. They don't have to worry about, oh, something's on an email, or so-and-so told me this. I say, look, everything on that you've done with that ticket, all the email correspondence you've had back is gone now. To the comments, you can then talk about that ticket. And if you ever need to go back and look at what's happened, it's literally there all in one place. The goals themselves, I think the stakeholders can build for themselves. They'll tell me what they want. I'll say, more often than not, I'll say, yeah, we can do that. Yes, we can do that. As Genevieve knows, we're just talking with a team of 30 new people around how they can track their workflows better than what they can now, because literally I think they've got 5 different mailboxes. And we said, well, look, if we put it all through Samanage, you've got it in one place. And yes, you've got 5 different teams, but by our segregation with the roles, we can say that team can see that, that team can see that, and you as the overall administrator can see the whole lot. So yes, we've got the single platform for all services. We use the subcategories to route tasks and requests. I think that last point is really relevant for us. Word of mouth is how I get my calls. I have no need to go out into the business to say, look, I think we can use Samanage for you. We're getting inundated left, right, and centre of people coming to us and saying, well, look, we've heard that team's gone on to Samanage and we've seen what it's done. Can you do it the same for us? So that's similar to the one that I've just talked about with the 30 new people coming on. Similar to comms, they just came to me. I didn't have to go out to see any of them. So the process expanding to the departments, I think I probably touched that in the last bit. We go out to each team, we talk to them about what is it that you want it to do. We more often than not, I'll sit and build a form there and then with them and say, look, does that meet what you need? And again, the enthusiasm then builds from the fact that you can do it so quick. I was only in occupational health last week, and they said, can you just come up, because we've got a few things that we need to change on the form. So I literally went up and sat with them and made the changes, put it live, and said, is that it? I said, yes, that's it. And said, well, it's more than we normally get from an IT team. It made me laugh. is that we normally say, oh, yeah, we're going to go away, we've got to think about this, we've got to build it. I said, well, no, that's the beauty of what we're doing, is that we can real time change things for you. So yeah, we test and deploy, and the users then come back. In fact, I've just had one from the one we released yesterday. They came back to me and say, can we just add this word into the form? Literally done, live. So the last thing, the organizational roadmaps. I think what you've got on there is both the Samanage roadmap and Yorkshire Water's roadmap, and they're very much linked together. We can see from the Samanage roadmap what functionality is coming up in the near future. So when we go out to new customers and they say, well, can you get it to do this for us? We'll say, no, but we know that in the future, that piece of functionality will be available. Say, well, look, what we can maybe do is start you off with some basic things, but in Q2, Q3, Q4, etc. This new functionality will come on board. Then we can look at maybe changing your forms. And as John mentioned, with Yorkshire Water's roadmap, in the top left-hand corner, you've got SAP, and the big issue we have now is that it really is going to be a big fundamental change to the business, the new version of SAP, and a lot of the tasks, that normal day-to-day tasks, emails, etc., will now be pushed through SAP, and the big bang goes live on the 1st of April next year. So we've got to get ourselves geared up, and that's where John's talked about all the self-help guides that we're going to have on how to SAP. So it shows there how our roadmap can help Samanage, because we may say, well, we've got this. Samanage may come back to us and say, well, look, maybe we could do this for you. Similar, Samanage then come to us and say, we've got this new functionality, which then says, oh yeah, we can use that in that area. And that, folks, is all we were going to talk about today. Thank you for listening.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Steve. Thank you, John. So I guess now if I can bring you back in, Genevieve, as well. Just while
I'm here.
Hello. just while people are getting their questions in for Steve and John, I wonder if you can tell us a little bit about how it works from your side of things. So Steve mentioned you would come in and have a look at some of the areas that you would sort of suggest improvements or changes that they could make. What are some of the first things that you would look for?
Well, from a customer success point of view, it's important for me to understand who the different stakeholders are. And from that point of view is what are Steve and John trying to get out of the system? What are their managers trying to get out of the system? And who else needs to get something from it? With 6,000 different users in 20 different departments, some of the requirements maybe are in opposition to each other, but mainly there's a lot of common ground that needs to be covered. And sometimes it means we need to adjust our product to fit their requirements. And sometimes that's something that's possible with Samanage. We're a very agile company, and so it's often possible for us to change our own roadmap. And I think we've mentioned the roadmap here to be more in line with what our customers need. And so we do that by having these conversations with those stakeholders. A lot of it is channeled through Steve and through John because they have those everyday relationships with them.
Yeah.
But being on site has been really useful for us. You mentioned Stuart. Stuart is one of our engineers here that was able to, we spent a week together at Yorkshire Water where we met with those different managers of the different departments that had issues working within the standards that had been established 5 years ago of our software. As I mentioned, we're an agile company, so over 5 years, it had changed a lot. And so what we were able to do was help them start using a much more up-to-date, let's say, version of the functionalities that we offer at Samanage, so that they could take advantage of some of that. One of the things that we were wanting to also mention about the automated workflows, it's kind of a red line throughout, a little thread throughout all of these things, is that if you're not using a system like Samanage, a lot of it is going to be done on Excel spreadsheets through email back and forth, and the processes are never really written down. Samanage forces you to think about the workflows that are going on in a company with 6,000 different employees and over 20 departments, and you can automate a lot of it because a lot of it just is repetitive work that needs to be done over and over again, you can make the system do it for you. And that's what's been so useful, I think, for Yorkshire Water, is that John mentioned that they are judged on the efficiencies of each of his employees. So there's 18 of these people answering questions from 6,000 of them. He needs to be able to reduce the number of tickets coming in, of course, and you can do some of that by self-serving, so giving them a way on our portal to find the solution themselves. And so that was one of the suggestions, for example, that we had with meeting with these 20 different departments was, what's a typical solution you would offer to a ticket that's coming in? How about we write it up and we put it on the knowledge base? It's very simple and obvious. A lot of it is just really obvious stuff.
Yeah, but it's always getting, the external view as well, isn't it? But so is that something that you would typically, is the kind of thing that you would typically help your customers with?
Yeah,
so
it's some of it is how do you force 6,000 people to start using the portal? So little tactics of, let's send them an email and let them know, send them a link. I don't know, run a contest of who can come up with the best answers and things like that. So you can do various things within the users. So those 6,000 requesters, people sending in tickets, but you can also do things with the over 300 agents in the end that have licenses that have to answer questions coming in eventually, to also force them to be a bit more efficient, try to find an automation that we could see. So if someone finds something that could be automated in the system, that they think we could be doing this automatically instead of having someone, hit that button every time. So instead of channeling tickets, for example, to a pool of users that then redirect the tickets to the right people, can we use an automation that would automatically send that ticket to the last person that would answer it instead of having someone channel them?
If I could just say as well, some of it is as simple as deploying some automation that changes the state of a ticket when an approval comes in. Set it to assign so it arrives back in the working queue and it just gets worked on. I can't tell you how much time that's saving my agents, just having that one small change in there.
It's those small changes. Because often I talk about saving 5% of your time. So 5% of your time is 2 hours per week. 2 hours, you think, that's not so much. But if you have 300 agents that are all saving 2 hours a week, how many hours are you saving in terms of resources per week, per month, per year? What else can be done with your time? Just me personally, if I gain 2 hours a week, then there's tons I can do with that. And if we think about how many employees, 2 hours really adds up. If I was, those 5% is a big difference. If we can increase it to 6-7% on a deployment as the size of Yorkshire Water, it's quite a lot of savings. And those savings are something that can be done for any size company in the end.
Absolutely. So that brings me quite nicely on actually to our first question that we've had in. So Steve and John, I don't know between you if you want to try and answer this one, but do you have any stats that you can share? I know some of the changes you're talking about are very, very current, but anything that was perhaps done a little bit longer ago that you have been able to measure some improvements from?
Probably don't think there's anything to hand that we can do. What sort of stats are we looking at?
I would imagine, so this is a question that's come in, but I imagine, where we've talked about saving time perhaps for requests or for, just efficiencies and things like that really. But is that something that you may not have the numbers now, but is that something that you'll be sort of reporting back once some of the changes are a little bit more mature?
Yeah, exactly. We've built a deliverables spreadsheet, which we'll be tracking on percentage of tickets that are alive. But we have something not ready now. But as we go through these days sessions that we're having, we're adding, because that's part of what our management have asked us. It said, look, we've given you this time to go away and do it.
Yeah.
What is it saving? So as we go through and mature more, then we will be able to collect the information. So when we've come to the end of the project, we can quite happily share that, the amount of time it's saved, etc. But at the minute, no, there's nothing there, but it will be.
Well, it's very, very current, isn't it? So
it is,
which is great, which is why it's really great to have you guys talking about it. So we appreciate you kind of sharing the things that you're doing.
I think, to be fair,
there's one we can report on. Sorry.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I know you have a report, John, where you measure how many tickets come in and how much then each ticket costs you, because you know the salary of each of your employees. And as you continue to report on, I think that's fairly new that you've had to start those reports, but I think as you continue to have those reports, you'll be able to have an analysis of the price of tickets compared to how many are self-served, for example, as you know, how many people visit the portal.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the things sort of related to that we can report on is one of our very earliest and most pushed solutions. We've had a password reset tool in our organization for years and years, and it didn't have a great deal of uptake until we created a solution and started really pushing it and publishing it out and using it to resolve calls. So a user might call in once, and we, rather than just reset their password, we would take them through the steps to reset their own password, attach a solution, so then you have to do it next time. And that increased uptake. It literally doubled the uptake on our PRM, which again is time saved for analysts.
Yeah, fantastic. So, and you'll be picking up things like that, you know, all through, won't you, sort of separately as well, and as well as the anecdotal stuff, you know, like Steve was saying about people just face to face mentioning the level of service and things like that.
Yeah, there's also.
I would say our current customer satisfaction rate is currently 92%, and that's going back now for the last 4 years.
Yeah. Yeah, so you kind of know, you know, when you're doing something right, don't you? It's very much a combination of all those things: numbers, sentiment, customer satisfaction, for sure. So another question then, if I can, Steve and John, can you tell us the best single change or best single automation that you've made?
I think it's probably that one for me. It's the one I've just shown you, where we've got dependent drop-downs, application integrations, all working on one ticket. So in the past, we may have had 4 tickets with different SLAs. It's now literally, it's only took me probably a couple of hours to build Monday afternoon, test it, and it went live. And that has shown us the vast possibilities that we've got for changing things going forward. Something John mentioned around automating this change of the state. Currently is a ticket will come in, and straight away it comes in as new. The agent goes in and says, hang on, it needs an approval. So they change the state to waiting manager approval. And they're having to go in on a regular basis to say, has it been approved yet? But part of the automation I'm building, and I've built on one ticket already, is that state will change automatically once all the approvals are done. So the agents then straight away know, right, I can work on that ticket, or it says awaiting manager approval, I can't work on that ticket. So those two were probably the biggest two that we've gained in, and those are all very recent as well, since we started this work together.
It makes it so much easier for your agents then to time their work, because like everyone at Yorkshire Water does something else. So they have the tickets they need to answer in SemManage, but they also have their regular day job. And so SemManage is just one of the tools they have to use on a daily basis. And so being able to make that part of their work more efficient and a lot less time consuming, because that's a lot of time wasted. If you have to go back to all these waiting tickets, it sounds so simple, but that's saving hours of work over.
It sounds like a small thing, but it's really not.
That's it. It's all those small clicks that saves up. It's small percentages that in the end means quite a lot of time saved and money saved.
Yeah, and it's the frustrations within the agents. One of the times they say to me, oh, I've had to go in and do that. I've had to go in and look at that queue again. Whereas now they don't have to, and they can confidently say, yep, all the approvals are done.
Yeah.
There's something else that came to mind, is something one of our technical experts built before he left, was an API. We build a form for a change request, and this API scores the form. And if it meets our criteria, it automatically creates a change request. Unfortunately, I mean, I've still got the code in, etc. Unfortunately, the process has totally changed since then, so we're not using it. But it's something that he built, and we've got it there in the background if we ever need to go back there.
Yeah. Well, we can help you update it, Steve. Let's pick that up in our week.
I think that's the other thing that.
Sorry, I was just going to say my favorite change that we've made recently is the focus on solutions, and as well as a bit of new functionality that has come in recently where we've got the smart suggestions when you search for things.
Yeah.
The service desk team, I'm all about stopping calls coming into my team and getting them through other channels. So that's made a huge difference.
And you mentioned sort of morale and the feeling, you know, the sort of employee satisfaction, if you like. That sounds like that's been improved as well.
Absolutely, as well, because they're also in charge of creating these solutions. So it's something that's away from the grind of just answering call after call. They're thinking about their work. They're thinking about how to phrase these things in a way that users are going to understand. It gets them to think in a way that they haven't been able to think before coming to work.
Yeah, a bit more empowered maybe, and kind of making some changes.
I also think
one
it's
useful automation. Go ahead.
I'm going to say, I think also it's a better user experience because the user who's made the request is probably not waiting half as long for their request to be dealt with. Waiting for the agency they're in to say, oh, actually, I can do that ticket. So they go ahead and do it. So the user experience is probably better as well.
Yeah.
Sorry, Genevieve.
No, that's okay. I was just thinking about one of the things that one of the changes we made for Ian, who's one of the managers of one of the departments that Steve works with. He used to spend, I think, half a day, he was telling us, per week, preparing a report that he needed to be able to have every Tuesday morning a meeting with management. When we were up there, we spent a few, I don't know, 20 minutes building this report for him that is now automatically sent to him by email, PDF, before his meeting. So now we've just, that's one manager in one department that just gained 4 hours every week from an automation of a report that's just sent to his email. So, and we could, that report is sent to him, but is also sent to everyone he's going to be meeting on Tuesday morning so that everyone has it in advance and everyone is ready to discuss it at the meeting. So it's hours saved for everyone, a much more efficient meeting that's also prepared for everyone that participates in that management meeting. And that's something that can be replicated at any level of management because of course everyone is responsible for different things. And so the reporting tool within SAManage allows for customization of these reports for anything that's in there essentially, but also then schedule them to be delivered to anyone that needs them.
Yeah, brilliant. And it sounds, you know, there's from a few things you've mentioned, Genevieve, it sounds as though often the answer is, you know, just ask, talk to your supplier, talk to your customer success manager, and just, you know, often they can help you, and it's the answer is built in there. And like you know mentioned, when someone
honestly, one of the things that's worked really well, I think, between SAManage and Yorkshire Water is that Steve and I work really well together. We have built a good report. We have weekly calls where sometimes they go on for an hour, sometimes they go on for 10 minutes. We email on a nearly daily basis, I would think. We're not afraid, I think, to call each other if there's a question. They're willing to do these webinars with us. I think that demonstrates the type of good relationship we've built. I came on board with SAManage just over a year ago. Yorkshire Water hadn't had correct me if I'm wrong, but I think a very dedicated customer success manager. Because of the size of the account, they were actually being handled by management directly, which meant that they weren't being handled very much. There was also a lot of changes within the director level at Yorkshire Water, and so there was just, I don't know, a lack of ownership from a management perspective, I think, both at SAManage and at Yorkshire Water. And over the last year, Steve and I have worked really hard to bring back that deployment at Yorkshire Water to a much more up-to-date level. John has made us understand just how important it was to make those changes, and has been able to provide those numbers that show the changes and the gains that have been done by doing that. I think that's part of what's gone really well for us. And so it's understanding, for me as a customer success manager, is understanding those different, what makes it a success? Because each customer, I have over 100 customers, all 100 of them are not looking for the same thing from SAManage. It's a very flexible solution, which means that it can do just about anything, but that means you need to know what you need. And Steve and John knew what they needed. And so it's just getting management buy-in in the end to be able to implement those changes for them.
I think a key thing for us is that we work as more as a partnership instead of a supplier-customer relationship. It is a partnership. We bounce ideas off each other, and that's worked really well. And as Genevieve says, I'm constantly emailing myself, Sherd, and other guys, other engineers, just help, and it works really well.
And it would seem like a really good idea to get somebody from the service desk team involved as well. And John, I guess for your team, has that helped them to feel a bit closer to the whole process and to feel that they're being represented in some of these
absolutely.
changes?
When I sort of came into the business, I think it might be fair to say we'd sort of implemented the manage and then hadn't had maybe the time or buy-in to spend a lot of time sort of keeping up to date with the changes that came in. So one of the things that I was sort of looking at when I came in was, okay, we have this tool, it's really user-friendly, but there seems to be a lot we're not doing with it. What can we start doing? One of the really great things about the visit we had from Manage was just really sort of opening our eyes and sort of management's eyes as well, to look, this is what could be done, this is the world we could live in, let's start getting there. And fortunately, we've had that buy-in. And from my team as well, all these sort of small step changes that we're making, as well as the sort of bigger wholesale ones as well, they're all about making their life easier. They're involved in it, sort of, as well as being guinea pigs, we're also presenting a lot of ideas because they can see how the system works. It's great from sort of my team's perspective, and the users are happier as well, which makes their lives a lot easier.
Absolutely, yeah, of course. The aim of the game, you could say. So that all sounds like, you mentioned, Genevieve, having even the fact that you guys are working together on this webinar, and it's all very much, like you say, partnership. Sounds like, even though we're talking about automation and processes, again, it comes back round to people and partnerships, and I think that's a really, really important point to make.
I agree.
And yeah, as you say, ask questions and get that kind of relationship going. So I think we're going to be coming towards the end of our session, but that was a really good point and note to end it on. And I just want to say thank you to you all again, really, for taking part. So thank you, John, thanks, Steve, and thanks, Genevieve, for sharing some of your side as well. Really interesting to get those different perspectives and to hear some of the real life, very, very current, as recent as yesterday, very current things that are being done. So I think that's been really, really interesting. So thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Zoe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And thanks everyone for listening. To all of those who are listening online now, we will be sharing the recording tomorrow with you, so you can go back and revisit any of the bits that you want to have another look at. Thanks for listening in, and I hope you can join us for another webinar soon. Thanks everyone. Goodbye.
Goodbye.